500 episodes. I can't believe it. 500 episodes of a podcast. I remember sitting there discussing with one of my mentors about, what should I name this podcast? It started out with me focusing on this concept of leaders in the trenches, or the need to niche, because I really do believe that companies should have a real solid focus, and a lot of people struggle to come up with that. The one question that came back from this mentor was, in 10 years' time, and you look back, which one of those names best describes who you are and what you've become? I let it sink in for a few minutes because I knew it didn't deserve a quick answer. And the name came up, Leaders in the Trenches. Now, you probably know this by now if you're a regular listener, but it's no longer called Leaders in the Trenches because about 6 months ago, I made a big change. But all of it together really is about leaders in the trenches. It's about really interviewing people who are on the front lines of business growth and really experts in what they're doing. Some of them are speaking about it. Some of them are bestsellers. But all of the people I've interviewed, I think, are in the trenches. This is 500 episodes, and I'm really excited to share with you this special version of the show where I share some defining moments in some of the special interviews we've had. This is not going to be fancy. I don't have a bunch of guests coming in here. I'm just going to kind of give you, from my heart, my take on some of the important things that happened over the years. So 500 episodes is a tremendous amount of time to spend on any one thing. I've been doing this for almost 6 years. And so when you think about that, it really is an amazing run. I'm consistently putting out content. I've increased the flow because of demand. I turn down hundreds and hundreds of people every month. It's amazing how many people I get to say no to. And I'm not saying that, kind of proud of that, but there's a lot of people that are trying to be on the show. And so we're trying to create the best experience for you. And I get to filter through that. My team and I, have come up with some guidelines. Right now, we're only focused on leaders of the Inc. 500. These founders and CEOs have a special story to tell. They really do represent growth thinkers, if you will. But this really is going all the way back to the beginning. So I'm going to dive in here. One of the things that I wanted to kind of go over with you is, over the last 5 years, we've gotten a tremendous amount of press. And it's exciting to do that because I share this with others. But we've been in Inc. magazines, the 12 podcasts that will make you a better leader. We've been in Business Insider, 100 podcasts that will make you smarter and more successful. We've been in Entrepreneur Magazine, 13 actionable strategies from 13 entrepreneurial podcasts. The Huffington Post, the 7 best podcasts you should be listening to. And then many, many more, that I'll put a list of some of the media that we've had it here because I want you to be able to go to these articles, maybe find some new podcasts if you're looking to expand where you are going, but hopefully you'll stay with me. I also want to remind you that before I get into this list of amazing interviews, I want to express my commitment to you to continue to evolve the show, to make it better fit who you are, where you're going. And I want to tune into what's going on in your life by surveying you. And I say this with a smile. I need you to give me a little bit of your time. If you would go to genehemet.com/survey, I will have some questions there ready for you. I will also have a little bit of a carrot to dangle. I'm going to give away $500. I'll give $500 to 5 people that fill out the survey in the right way. That not just kind of doing it the quick version, but to really give me some depth answers. And my team and I will help select those. But you could be one of them. We don't have millions of listeners, so your input really does matter. I want to know some of the things about the kind of company you're in, the kind of role you have as a leader. I also want to know some of your challenges. I also want to know how often you're listening to the show, and do you refer the show to others? Simple questions. Your feedback will help us keep the show going and really tune in to what's going on in your world. All right, so just go to genehemet.com/survey. Now let's dive into this. I'm going to start with one of the interviews that, this is not in any particular order. I have organized them. So this is just regular interviews. But there was a gentleman on the show, episode number 22, and his name is Larry Winget. Larry is a pistol. If you don't know Mr. Winget, He is so amazing. His brand of speaking and directness and humor is not for everyone. Some of his books would be, the title would be Grow a Pair, How to Stop Being a Victim and Take Back Your Life, Your Business, and Your Sanity. Another book is called It's Called Work for a Reason. Your Success is Your Own Damn Fault. Another one is You're Broke Because You Want to Be, How to Stop Getting By and Start Getting Ahead. We could go on and on and on, but Larry talked about a lot of different things on the show, but I remember one thing that stood out to me. He talked about commitment, and he shared a story about, in his life, commitment is not something that you do sometimes. Commitment is something you do all the time. And I remember that, and I've shared this with a lot of people. His story behind it was, when I married my wife, I'm not committed to her some of the time, not just when I like her. I'm committed to her all the time. He mentioned the same thing about his kids, and if you have teenagers, you know what I mean. It's hard to be committed to them all the time, but you have to be. As a parent, that's our job. And as workers and as leaders, those words are really, I take to heart about this idea of commitment. Another concept that came out of that interview was a quote that I put into my book, The Trap of Success, which was make a decision and then make it the right decision. This really goes into helping people be more decisive about what they're going to, what their choices are in front of them, but also how they show up to make it the right decision. How do they really put it in? There's many things I could tell you about how that's been used, but that's one interview that really stands out. So just go to Larry Winget, just type that into that and look up Leaders in the Trenches or Grow Think Tank. You'll be able to find that interview. You can also, one of the interviews I did was with a friend, or actually two friends, Adam Walker and Jeff Hillemeyer, number 196, Creating a Life of Significance Takes Courage. And the story behind this is I really was excited to share. They have done something that just blew me away. 48 and 48 was just an idea that I think a lot of people thought was kind of crazy, but they create 48 websites for 48 nonprofits in 48 hours. And really is something that they didn't do once. They've done this multiple times across the country, even into London, and they're going to take this globally. And I really love this interview because these two gentlemen are friends of mine now, and they just absolutely have insight to how to create something bigger than themselves, and how to give their skills to others, and how to coordinate that in such a way that it's actually benefited their businesses, benefited their own leadership, and it has been a part of their legacy. So that is a great interview. I also got a chance to interview Joe DeCina on 439, so it wasn't that far ago, but Pushing Beyond Your Mental Barriers. And Joe is, if you're not familiar with the name, he is the originator or the founder of Spartan Races. He wrote the book Spartan Up, and we talked about the mental barriers that people often put in front of themselves. So that's a really fantastic interview, and I was excited to have that. Another set of interviews I had was Ryan Gill, number 283, The Courage to Create a Cult Brand. And Ryan is the former president of Cult Collective and now the CEO of Communo, a new platform for really talented workers and maybe the future of work. And they also created the Cult Gathering. I also interviewed his business partner on this, Chris Nealand at number 327, How to Define Customer Expectations to Drive Business. And what I liked about these two, not just because I spoke at their conference and not just because I spoke next to Brene Brown, one of my heroes in this world of leadership, but just amazing dudes, amazing kind of concepts how they think about the world. It's very different. It's edgy. I absolutely love it. Their book, Fix, Break the Addictions That Are Killing Brands. Both of them were a part of that. But brands as we know it are addicted to advertising, and it really is kind of a band-aid to their product. And it really created a new way to look at it through customer expectations. And when you can really tune into that, I've used this concept inside my own work to help people understand what ownership is like. and what really being inclusive is. And I won't give you the details because it's not proprietary to me. It's just what I do with my clients. And I just thought I'd say that, and that's one reason why I put them on this list. They created an incredible conference called the Cult Gathering that I did speak at a couple of years ago. And if you have a chance to go, it's fantastic. It's in Banff, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world. Another interview that I had recently, very recently, so 498, Angelo Poli is about becoming an energetic and healthy leader. If you haven't listened to this episode, go back to it. It's just a couple of episodes ago, but I share my own weight loss journey with them. And I say journey, it was only about 35, 40 days from the very beginning to where we actually did the interview. I've continued to lose more weight since then. It hasn't been that long ago, but I'm on a tear to lose 30 pounds. I've had knee trouble for a long time. And inside that episode was really some game-changing information, and I used their program. So go get the details with Angelo on number 498. Now, this next set are friends and clients that have been on the show. One of my best friends in the world is Jason Swank, and Jason has created an amazing business for agency owners. He is an advisor and a mentor. He's got many different kind of ways to work with him. But let's just say he's a rock star in his industry. He's been on the show a couple of times. He's been someone that I helped advise in the very early days of his business, literally from the struggling aspects of, where do I even begin? How do I start? Why is this not working? And helping him, kind of navigate some of those very difficult moments. The first time he got on stage, he didn't get any clients from it. The second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. And I had a chance to sit in his audience with him and give him some feedback on that, coach him as I do. And then the very next time, he created about $50,000 in new clients from one speech. And he did that multiple times since then. And he continues to do it because he's very selective in where he speaks, which is good. But he's also shares some of the insights behind that profitable niche. So Jason's been on the show, and I just had to highlight that. Also, another client of mine is Ron Dodd. Ron tells his journey of growing 400% in a year with me. I know that sounds like a lot. His company was pretty small. He had a small team, but he exploded with growth because of some of the strategies we came up with and he executed on, and I guided him through. And so I share this with you because it really is a great episode. That's number 207 with Ron Dodd. I also had Mike Popowski on there. He's the CEO of Dagger, creating a growth culture. That interview was number 347. That was really a great place to share the journey of Mike. Mike has been a high performer in everything he's ever done, probably going back to his middle school years or even before. And this role of being the CEO of a new company that was that he wanted to grow fast and that others were expecting to grow fast really was a challenge for him, because he had to let go of some of the things as a high performer of doing it all himself and build a team around him and really create something that he's proud of, that I'm proud of to be a part of, and really serving the biggest brands in the world. So that story is on number 347 with Mike Popowski. Now let's look at some of the best-selling authors that have been on the show. I don't have any favorite interviews, like you don't have favorite children, but this one interview stands out for me. I say this because it really is something that blew me away. When I had Seth Godin on the show, I was beside myself. That was the one interview that I was really hoping to land in the early days. You may not know this about me, but one of the goals I set when I started this podcast was I want to, interview and be connected to some of the sharpest minds in business. And for me, Seth Godin is on that list. And we talked about developing leaders with Seth Godin. One of the quotes that he said in there, and I still remember today, is if your employees are expecting to be told what to do, then you can always find someone cheaper to do it. So think about that. If your employees are expecting to be told what to do, you can always find someone cheaper to do it. Because what we really need is we need people that are leaders, that see an opportunity inside of our businesses and are able to take initiative toward that, make decisions, take their opinions and move forward be able to fail and pick themselves back up and keep going. And this interview is all about that. So go to 331 with Seth Godin. Some of the great books that he has been a part of, if you haven't heard of this gentleman, is Purple Cow, Transform Your Business by Being Remarkable. The Dip. His first book, I believe, is Permission Marketing, which he really, was helping people understand that we should collect permission before we bombard people with a bunch of information. He's also, I think his latest book is This Is Marketing. He also wrote Linchpin, Tribes. We could go on and on. He's like an 8-time, 9-time bestseller. He's really an amazing person. Glad to have him on the show. Well, as we keep moving through this list, I had a gentleman that I had sort of a man crush on for a long time. His name is Michael Port. Michael has written many books. One of them is called Still the Show. And I just really have admired Michael's journey. He's a good-looking guy. He's got no hair right now, but on the cover of one of his books, he's got beautiful hair and everything. But he's I'm certainly don't have a man crush on him, but I really do admire his intelligence. We talked about there's nothing more valuable than understanding your target market, and he dove deep into that conversation on episode 64. I had him back on the show to talk about performing, on stage, how to steal the show with Michael Port. That was number 176. Inside that episode, if you're looking to do more public speaking, we did a kind of a machine gun approach to, how do you handle the first 7 seconds? How do you handle nervous jitters? How do you get the audience to feel more emotion through the speech? And a number of different questions. So if you want to be a better speaker, make sure you tune in to 176 with Michael Port. I also remember the first time I got an email from this gentleman, and actually I think it was through a friend, but Michael Gerber. I probably have the book back here. Here it is. The E-Myth. That book, a lot of people have quoted. Mine's got underlines and quotes and everything inside there. But Michael Gerber, really kind of organized this whole this idea of systematizing your business, and it really is a powerful aspect. We talked about you don't know how broke your mindset is. So it's a very powerful interview where he goes into the thinking behind being an entrepreneur, being a leader that you need to be, and how you must continue to evolve as that leader. So that's episode 88. Another great gentleman, become a friend of mine, Mike Michalowicz. He has written many books. He's written Clockwork, which is a fantastic book on systems. Profit First is about how do you treat your money inside your book. The Pumpkin Plan, which is like an overall strategy for growth. And his next book coming out is called Fix This Next. And I love Mike's work. His humor is really, top notch. He makes me laugh. Maybe he doesn't make you laugh, but I really do appreciate that. His episode is number 353. That some of these defining moments really, I'm getting a little caught up here because it's such a long journey I've had with some amazing people. Another best-selling author I've had is Bob Burg. That book is The Go-Giver. He is a co-author with John David Mann. I recently included a article for Inc. magazine inside this interview talking about The Go-Giver, and I didn't give him credit, but he is such an amazing person and such a gentle heart, and wants to make sure people are giving to others. And people have quoted this book to me and suggested this book to me over and over again. So the title of that episode is Money is an Echo of Value. And you can go get that at episode 114, so 114. Finally, wrapping up the best-selling authors, and I did have others in there. I know there was probably 11, maybe even 15 best-selling authors. Greg McKeown came on the show, blew me away with his idea of essentialism. That's the name of his book, but we call narrowing it down to the essential. And because there's a lot of distraction in our world, there's a lot of us trying to figure out what do we do next. And he had a very simple plan behind that. I included it into a free guide. If you want to get it, absolutely free. Just go to genehammett.com/productivity. And you can get that free guide. If you don't, if that's not working, whatever, just send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. Now I want to remind you before we keep going on here, I really would love for you to help me improve this show and really help me create, kind of the experience I want as this continues to evolve. I want to serve you. I want to tune into your needs. So we've got a survey. Just go to genehemet.com/survey. We will be selecting 5 people to get $500 as soon as we finish this survey process. It's going to take us a little while, but I'd love for you to go ahead and do that today. Just go to genehemet.com/survey. If you're listening in, it would really help me out. It costs you nothing. You could actually win money, but it would help me create better content for you. Now, let's talk about some of the high caliber speakers. When I say this, they're keynote speakers that really are playing a game at a different level than most of the people around them. The first one I want to talk about is Shawn Stevenson. Shawn is a powerhouse. He recently passed away. I know that's sad. He is in my book, The Trap of Success. There's an opening story in here where I talk about thinking bigger, and he is someone who thinks bigger, but he was only 3 foot tall. He had a rare disease. It's called brittle bone disease. And so when he would sneeze as a child, he would break bones. And he never got out of that. So he was literally shorter than your waist high, but he had such a heart. He had such a soul that it was amazing to be with him. I saw him in person a number of times, and for him to be on the show to talk about thinking bigger, just really love that episode. That's number 224. So you can find all about Shawn Stevenson there. One of my buddies was on the show. He is playing the game at a new level. Ryan Estes. He was episode number 210. We talked about leading through change and adaptation and innovation are necessary in today's world. He does research with Fortune 1000 brands and takes that research and gives it back to them in very unique, powerful ways as a speaker. One of my best articles I've written over the last 5 years writing for major publications is this one I wrote, Managers Are a Dying Breed. Here's what you must have instead. And that really is a play to, we must go beyond just being managers of numbers and processes and of people and be leaders. Be leaders of processes, be leaders of the numbers, be leaders of the people. Those that can lead will really drive a new path forward, whereas managers tend to, monkey with the small iterations in between. We need both in our businesses, but we're having a really serious deficit in leadership. So Ryan Estes, number 210, powerful speaker. Now this next gentleman, maybe you've heard this name before, but Les Brown. Les is such an amazing speaker. He is one of the most powerful speakers I've ever seen, creating connection and significance through speaking. He talks about, how do you actually do this over and over again? He shares with you some of the specific strategies behind it. That's episode number 248. One of the interesting stories here is how he actually became to be on my show. I still remember it. I'm recording this at Christmas time, and it was about the same time a few years ago when I wasn't feeling well. Really was kind of in bed and had my laptop in front of me. Probably even shouldn't have had the laptop, but I was just kind of, checking out. And I got a message slide into my DMs on Facebook, and it was a listener of the show just like you. And we were having a conversation back and forth. So if you've never had a conversation with me and you want to, I will chat with anyone. I will take some time with you to get to know you. All you have to do is reach out. Just send me an email, gene@genehemet.com, or get into Facebook with me or LinkedIn and send me a message. But the best way is to just go ahead and email me, and I'd love to talk to you. But this one interview, or this one kind of conversation was going back and forth. It was talking about maybe I should be a speaker. He goes, my godfather says I should be a speaker. And I was like, oh, well, who's your godfather? And she goes, Les Brown. And I was like, is this the Les Brown, or is this just like some random Les Brown? And she's like, well, he's a professional speaker. Do you know of him? And I'm like, well, absolutely, because Les Brown is an icon in this industry and really has some very powerful thoughts. And he can engage an audience in emotions more than anyone I've ever seen. So Les was her godfather, and I said I'd love to have him on my show, and she's like, okay, let me see if I can make that happen. About 20 or 30 minutes later, I wasn't feeling any better. And a message comes back in. And she goes, "What's your cell phone number?" And I was like, "Well, why?" And she goes, "Well, he wants to talk to you right now. He's got some time. And so he wants to call you." And so I sent her my cell phone number, and Les Brown literally calls me. We spent the next like an hour and a half talking about my life and about, what's going on in his life and what's really going on. Fantastic conversation. Again, I was not feeling well, but I was so excited, and I asked him to be on the show, and he's like, "Yeah, let's set that up." And I said, "What do you want to do this next week or in the new year?" And he goes, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I was like, I'm going to be interviewing you. If you're ready, let's do it. So that's that interview. If you want to be a speaker, that's a fantastic place to start. So another interview was a buddy of mine, Jay Baer. Talk Triggers is a book that he has, how to get clients for free. Really, he's the co-author of that book. But Jay Baer is a world-class speaker, world-class human, and really admire what he's done. He is in the Hall of Fame as a professional speaker, and just some of the things he's done and the team he's put together around him really is something to admire. So Talk Triggers is that interview, number 278. Eric Wall is that name you probably never heard of, but you might have seen this video where he talks about disruption. He talks about how what you see may not be what is actually there. And he is a renowned graffiti artist. He was able to, in a speech, engage the audience in real content, but also be speaking in between some of these moments. And he takes, really just a few minutes to paint this amazing picture that doesn't look like much, and you're trying to figure out what it is, and it looks like an abstract. But the reality is, he steps back and talks about disruption for a few minutes, and then goes and turns over the picture, and you realize it's a picture of Steve Jobs, or it's a picture of someone else famous, a lion or something like that. It's just an amazing kind of way of really making a difference. And Eric was on the show, and I really admire having him on the show. So that was number 261. The next few are some solo episodes I created. Here's the funny thing about this. A lot of people really appreciate the solo episodes. I've had some great interviews, but most of my solo episodes are shorter. This one's a little bit longer because it's episode 500. And if you haven't already done the survey, let me just remind you one more time. I'm trying to tune in to your needs as a listener. Go to genehemmett.com/survey, and you can help me create content just for you. And if you're one of the 5 people that win, we're going to give away $500 for all of those people. So make sure you do that, and that would really help us out. Solo episodes. The first one I think I did was how to stand out. Maybe it wasn't the first one, but I used to talk on stages a lot about this. I don't talk much about this anymore, but how to truly stand out inside your business. And I walked through the 6 principles of truly standing out. I remember some of them. I kind of made a riff off of music. Are you making music or noise? Well, it depends on who you're talking to, and hopefully your music, your brand is so specific that you're tuning in to the people, and they hear it as music, and others hear it as noise. Another solo episode I did was number 99, Your Truth versus the Truth. This was me trying to help you understand that you have some limiting beliefs, some blind spots. Just because you believe it to be true, you can look around in the world and you can see the evidence in your data and the stories, and you believe that as the truth. But you have to realize that's your truth, and the truth could be completely different. You could be wrong. I know it's kind of hard for me to say this to you and break it to you, but you don't have everything right. If you think you do, you're going to miss out on opportunities as leaders and as parents, as husbands. So you've got to be willing to look at your truths and be able to really determine where you could grow and where you have blind spots. So that's that episode number 99. Another one is number 233, called Be the Choice, Not Just a Choice. So that really is too about how do you create that? I gave that speech I don't know, probably 50 times. Love that speech, and I talk about that for you so that you can get something there. One of the newer pieces to this is number 340, where it's getting the team to take ownership. This was where really was starting this research with Inc. 5,000 founders and CEOs. And I really was going deep into this, and the data came back and said, we don't want people to take responsibility. We want them to take ownership. And it changed my world because I started talking about it more and more through the show, through my speeches, through just the work I do to help companies grow. And it resonated. It was something that really caught on. And it's actually been the most powerful thing inside of the last probably 5 or 6 years that I've been talking about, is how to increase the sense of ownership and how to lead in a way that inspires people to have that feeling of ownership. So you can get the details there at episode 340. I also wrote an Inc. article about it, so you can actually go in there and talk about search for great leaders, inspire their employees to take ownership. And here's how. So the next episode is about radical transparency, how to build trust using radical transparency, number 316. This comes from Ray Dalio's book, Principles, and it's one of my top articles as well on Inc. The 3 steps Ray Dalio uses radical transparency to build a $1 billion company. Love that one. Another solo episode is number 360, getting out of firefighter mode and becoming a leader. I hear so many leaders that are just scrambling. They feel overwhelmed. They show up to work and they never feel like they can get ahead. And I know exactly how that feels. Sometimes it happens even today where you're really pushing forward on some new projects, and I feel this sense of overwhelm, and it's really tough. But you've got to step back. You've got to slow down to speed up. You got to figure out how to switch from being reactive to being proactive. And that's the key inside not only your personal growth as a leader, but also your culture, your team, is how do you make those shifts? Go to 360 to find out that. A complement to that is number 364, which is customer first or industry first. No, I said that wrong. Customer first or employee first, which is best for you? You've probably heard me say this before, but fast growth companies, when I ask them the question, as a leader, what's more important, your customers or employees? Fast growth companies, 9 out of 10 times, it's actually higher than that. If you want to get the exact numbers, we'll say employee first. They know how important it is to take care of the people that are taking care of the customers. They know how important it is for them to be the resource and really push them forward. So make sure you go to episode 364 to get that one. Now, industry giants, some of the times I had some really high-flying people on this show. I really am amazed about this. I had Howard Behar, the former president of Starbucks, filling your soul with Howard Behar. It's on the desk. The Magic Cup. The Magic Cup. Yes, a good book. It's one of those fable type books, so you can read it very quickly. When I was talking to Howard, I got this gentle feeling about how he feels as a leader and how much caring is necessary. And being a part of the Starbucks brand, he shares about some of the key moments of their growth. I also had Frank Blake, number 345, if you're tracking this by the episode numbers, but leadership that activates the entrepreneurial mindset. The Home Depot, I didn't tell you who Frank Blake is. Let me back up. Frank Blake is the former CEO of Home Depot. He is one of the guys who led them out of the housing crisis of 2008 and 9. And I think he retired in 2015. He lives here in Atlanta, and he just an amazing leader who has made so much impact in the world because he trained under Jack Welch. He's got some really specific ideas around that. But I asked him a lot of questions around one of their core values as a company at Home Depot with 430,000 plus associates. They don't call them employees, associates. Why is entrepreneur mindset important there? And he said, we need people to have the courage to stand up for the customer when the time is right. We need them to have the courage to make these decisions and share their opinions. And that's the entrepreneur mindset. Another great giant I've had on the show was Naveen Jain, Discover Your Moonshot. This is episode number 335. This episode really did change me. It's where I came up with the concept of, I don't have my stickers right here. If we could show the back of my computer, you would see that I have these stickers called I Love Monday. And that came from that episode because it's a moonshot. I truly do love Monday. I love moving my goals forward. I love the work I do. I love serving my clients. And I think a lot of employees hate Mondays and they dread them. But what if we could shift this world so that they were so connected to their work, they feel that sense of ownership, that they could actually love Mondays as much as we do as owners. Naveen Jain is a billionaire. I think he's the only billionaire I've had on the show. I don't take financials, but he's known as a billionaire. He's got a couple of different brands out there. One that's really catching fire right now is Viome, which is a gut health. They run a lot of different things there where they're testing for your personal gut health. But what I love about that interview was he talks about, why do you need a moonshot and how do you get started with it? Because a lot of people have these big dreams. He talks about specifically how do you get started. I was really excited to have him on the show. That's number 335. Now, I'm going to keep going here. Jesse Itzler was really an amazing guest to have on the show, and he talks about why normal is broken. And that episode is number 369. Jesse Itzler is the co-founder of Marquis Jets. They sold it to Warren Buffett. He also worked with Zico Water and sold that to Coca-Cola. And he's had many other successes along the journey. He's an amazing entrepreneur, but he really does believe normal is broken. And I love the way he thinks in that episode. It's very powerful. Really excited to have him on the show. By the way, one of my other heroes in this world is Sara Blakely. I love her honesty and quirkiness, and that's they're married, Sara Blakely and Jesse Itzler. So great episode, number 369. I had Brian Scudamore, hiring those with the entrepreneur spirit. Brian is the founder of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and that brand just exploded, and it really is a great story about why you want to hire people with an entrepreneur spirit. That episode is number 293. And I also had Horst Schulze. I know I've got his book here, right there. So Excellence Wins. Had a chance to have lunch with Horst, and he's just amazing. He's the co-founder of Ritz-Carlton, and it really is something that I was just blown away by his view of the world. He actually met with one of my small groups of founders and leaders of fast growth companies that we raced Porsches. He came in and answered some questions about the courage to give feedback. So make sure you tune into that episode number 391. All right, let's wrap this up with the Inc. 500 leaders. Ben Wright's been on the show twice. One was Lessons of Growth from the Fastest Growing Company, number 375. Velocity Global is his company. They grew just in an astronomical, blistering pace, and they hit fourth on the list. It was over like 35,000% in 3 years. They will continue to grow, but not as fast because of the way they started was just a very small amount, and they grew to millions, and that's how they got to there. I talked to him recently, episode number 442, was how to hire the best employees. And why that's important inside the group, not just because of the performance of the individual players, but the performance of the overall team and the standards of the team. So that's a great interview. I also interviewed Jan Bednar. He's numbered like 29 on the list in 2018. The importance of a nimble culture. He shares a great story around Thanksgiving about how the company was able to rise together. They have a business very dependent on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and so they really needed to rise up at this specific time. So it really is a great interview on number 444. Brad Griffith was a special interview, improve collaboration of your team. We talked about a rally cry and what that is and why that really is important. I love this concept. It really is about how do you align people together to one goal? How do you create objectives and key results beyond that, and so that over 6 months, everyone is completely aligned to that one goal. So that's Brad Griffith. That's number 447. David Friedman was on the show. He's the number one, I think is a co-founder of Friedman, actually David Friedman at Freestar. They grew 36,680% last year in the 2019 list. They talk about growth with an ownership culture, and I wrote about it in Inc., so you can find that too. Just recently, why top company on Inc. 5000 this year focused on its company culture to grow quickly. Finally, wrapping this up with Jeremy Delk, getting your culture to embrace failure. Number 478, really a great interview talking about, innovation inside their business is not something that is just happens. It is very intentional, and they embrace failure to do that. Now, this has been a fantastic journey here to get to where we are. I say all this with a humble heart. If you are listening to this right now, you are a dedicated listener. You deserve something special. So make sure that you tell me in your survey that you listened to this last piece, and then I told you the key word, which is VIP. So put that somewhere in that survey. If you're listening in here, I want to know who my VIPs are, my very important people that are listening to the show deep into it. So if you're going to go to do that survey, go to genehammett.com/survey and put in there somewhere VIP, where I know exactly who it is. I'm not telling everyone else this trick. This is it. So you're the only ones that know that if you put the VIP in there, that you have a very special chance at that $500 that we're going to be giving away. So if you go to genehammett.com/survey, you'll be able to do that. Now, I'm going to sign this off quickly. Hopefully you are enjoying the show. You referred it to others. If you want us to continue growing, make sure you fill out the survey, genehammett.com/survey. And as always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being a part of 500. I can't wait to keep going.